So a while back, I mentioned that I picked up this Yamaha Pacifica at the end of 2022 and how this would be a test instrument of sorts. So I wouldn't have to tear down or work on my other guitars when I got items to do reviews on, like pickups or electronics or hardware, things like that. And part of the reason why I got a Strat type guitar was they're pretty common. They're common styles, and most changes and mods generally apply to guitars like these. And also, players also can usually relate to these kind of instruments in general as well. To give you an example is, let's say, compared to my PRS guitars, for example, I did a review once on some pickups that I put into one of my PRS guitars, and someone said, well, that's great. You put a great set of pickups in a great sounding guitar and it sounds great. So I take that point seriously, and I think, yeah, it's kind of tough to have a really be a good evaluation of a pickup that's supposed to make a guitar sound better. It'd be better off to have a guitar that's kind of a little more common, maybe not as high end, maybe something that is just kind of like everybody has, and everyone's had a Strat, everyone's got something like that, and a Strat is always able to be modified just based off of its design. And this video is to update the progress on this guitar. Now, the first thing I did, which is really simple upgrade, I did some shallow strap locks. It's an easy mod, but I wanted to do that. It's always something you have, I have all my straps have the accompanying button that goes on the strap, so it's just great for security. And the next thing I wanted to also do was a proper setup of this instrument and getting it to a starting point at its stock form, especially with the hardware and the electronics as they are, as the factory's made it. But I also needed it set up to my specifications, so I dropped it off with Adam at AF Precision Setups, and he loves to tear down guitars to their bare bones and start from scratch, especially when they're new. And this guitar was no exception. In about 30 minutes, this guitar had been disassembled and placed. All the parts were in neatly organized sections of parts bin. And I also have no problem with somebody wanting to do that, because this is how a lot of people really see what you're getting for an instrument, and seeing where the manufacturers are either cutting corners or what are they giving you for your hard-earned dollars. And that was a great thing, because we went through it right from the beginning and you got to see what was really under the hood. Now, first of all, this is the typical YouTuber plug. It always sucks to do. If you like this channel, please hit the subscribe button. The bell icon will also let you know when I put up a new video. I have noticed that 97% of the viewers on this page are not subscribers. I don't know if I'm showing up in your feeds on a regular basis with the YouTube algorithm that kind of controls everything and keeps popping in there, but if you subscribe, you'll be sure not to miss any videos should that algorithm change or your viewing habits change as well too. And if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. If you want to share it, there's also a button for that as well. I also want to say that this past month we went over 200 subscribers, and want to do something special for the viewers that have subscribed. So if you haven't subscribed, you might want to, because we're going to have something in store for you if you are a subscriber. So keep an eye out for that. Anyways, back to this Pacifica. So during Adam's teardown, the observation was the overall build quality was quite impressive at the price point. However, the one thing Yamaha did skip on was the shielding of the electronics cavity under the pickguard. And with this guitar in pieces, it was a good opportunity to address this. And I've had Adam do copper shielding tape on my parts caster, but this time he went with the shielding paint from Stuart McDonald. And for additional shielding under the pickguard, he applied copper tape on the underside as well. After sorting that out, he reassembled it and did a proper setup with my favorite strings, Diodario XL 110s. And with the crazy humidity and weather that New England's had this summer, he waited till I arrived to pick up the instrument to do the finishing adjustments for the setup. And I have to say, this guitar plays amazingly well, and it sounds absolutely wonderful. It's the example of a guitar that starts off really good and with a little attention turns it into a great instrument. He did some minor fret cleanup on some of the edges, but nothing major, and it plays far better than any off-the-rack import at any music store. And I will definitely say that because of just this little bit of attention that this guitar was given, and especially when it was put back together, it was done by one guy at one station and tuned up and all done right from the get-go. And that's kind of a cool thing as well too. You kind of see how it all goes together, and when you put it back together, you know what you're working with. And that's something that really helps when you do tear down an instrument. Get the anything that may have been missed or may have not gotten the full attention at the factory, well, it gets the full attention right now from your tech or your setup. And Adam did a wonderful job with that. And I gotta tell you, these pickups, I always thought these pickups were kind of like the weak point of the guitar, but these are really bright and articulate. They have plenty of bite. They got a bit of a modern flavor to them. I believe they're ceramic. And when your guitar is set up to your preferences, that improves the playability. It also improves the overall sound as you're more familiar with it. And you're not trying to work around any playability issues. You're actually not trying to lay back. You actually can play it just like any of your other instruments, and it just feels natural. You're not like, oh, the strings aren't in the right gauge, or maybe the action is not the right height, and maybe it's not reacting as you normally would on your other guitars. Well, when you get the guitar set up to what you want it to be, and it reacts like all your other instruments, that's where it really shines through, and you get to see what the actual instrument brings to the table. Now, the shielding upgrades aren't something that's super noticeable, especially right off the bat. It's more meant to be something that will help combat excess noise out in the wild, and that's the type of stuff you really can't account for. Things like neon beer signs that are near the stage, maybe some bad grounding. It's certainly not like a hush or a noise gate that will eliminate all the noise, but it will kind of like, minimize things like uncontrollable buzz, like picking up radio stations maybe at a certain venue if there's bad power or a bad ground and things like that, where all of a sudden you have something that just doesn't sound quite right. It's not going to completely eliminate it, but it can definitely help mitigate that issue if it does arise. So it's just kind of like having belt and suspenders. And since a lot of manufacturers do put that shielding paint in a lot of their guitars already, I was a little surprised Yamaha didn't. So it was just a good thing to have, especially since the guitar was in pieces anyways. Is this guitar perfect? Of course not. I'm finding that the bridge saddle screws for the heights are kind of digging a bit into my palm a little bit when I'm digging in. But since I played Strats with vintage style bridges for years, it's not really a deal breaker. It just kind of brings me back to earlier days. There are some options of how to fix it. You can get shorter screws. You could grind down the existing screws. You could also go to things maybe like a different bridge saddle that maybe has again, different heights, and also they may sit closer flush to the top of the screw, maybe something kind of like a Graphtec bridge saddle like I have on my Mustang. So something like that could be in the future, but it's not a deal breaker, and it probably won't be the first thing we modify or try to adjust going forward. And speaking of that, what's the next step then? Well, since it plays great and it sounds great, the next step might be something kind of mild, and it might be something on the aesthetics. I'm thinking about maybe getting some different knobs and maybe a different pick guard. We'll have to reshield that pick guard as well, but I'm thinking maybe like a tortoise guard would look kind of cool. Maybe some black knobs on here, and it would kind of look, that kind of thing would look really great regardless of what color pickups you have in here, whether you have black covers or white cover for the plastic for the single coils, or if you have chrome nickel for the humbucker, or you have, the exposed plastic bobbins, regardless of the color. It'll kind of blends in and gives a little bit more of a boutique-y feel type of thing. And I think that this color palette works really kind of cool. I've had a black and white Strat for many, many years, but I think this would be something, it's a modern guitar, and maybe it needs a little bit, some more of a modern flair there. But this also goes to the next thing of, well, what do we do after that? What do we do other than some big things? And this guitar is meant as a test guitar, and a couple of viewers actually had some suggestions. One viewer said, hey, why don't you do a Dave Murray of Iron Maiden kind of setup? Get some DiMarzio Super Distortion humbuckers and a single coil in the middle. And I thought that was kind of a great idea. I thought, that's something kind of cool, something I haven't done. I really don't play a lot with guitars with a single hum configuration, especially, and not super distorted pickups either. And, Dave Murray always had kind of a unique sound. He's a little bit not as angular as Adrian Smith. He's got a little more of a flow to his playing. So that'd be kind of interesting to kind of approach for this guitar. It'd be kind of cool to do, especially as this pickup, underneath this pickguard, it's a complete swimming pool route, so you can put pretty much any kind of pickup configuration there. You just have to get a different pickguard, and that's not going to be a problem. There's a place called Pickguard Planet that has pretty much almost any material, and also can do any type of configuration for whatever cuts and type of pickups you happen to want in there as well. I thought that's a great idea. Another viewer suggested, why not go with a Seymour Duncan Invader in the bridge and just have that in a single volume control and kind of do like maybe a Blink 182 Tom DeLonge style guitar. And they said, that would be kind of cool. And they kind of commented saying it'd be a really inexpensive option, especially considering the new Fender signature guitar has come out. And this viewer actually commented that they've seen some videos where there've been some unboxing videos for some influencers on YouTube, and the guitars have had some issues, QC issues. I'll leave it at that. And this would kind of give you that kind of same feel, but at a really inexpensive price. I mean, I got this for $219. A pickguard can't be that much money, and neither can a Seymour Duncan Invader and have it wired up with a single volume knob. So, I mean, you really have that same vibe and same feel for really a fraction of the cost. And that's a great idea to try out as well too, especially testing out different things. I also haven't had an Invader pickup in any of my instruments. I've heard them many times. I've had a couple of friends that have had them, and they are extremely aggressive pickups and they sound great. So maybe it'd be something to kind of try out and check out. So I like them. They're all good ideas. And I'd like to hear any other ideas you guys have had for maybe pickups or electronics or things that we could do to this guitar to try out. Maybe there's some bridges or something like, maybe a Vega Trem. If you have any ideas of something you think we should give it a go, let me know in the comment section. We'll try to do that in the future, and we'll walk through the process of it and see if it's something that's really worth checking out for in the future. And yeah, there's a lot of mods and upgrades we could do with this, and there's really no rush at this point. So please give me your ideas. Love to hear from you. I mean, right now there's not a super big rush for it, because this guitar right now, as it stands, clocking in at under $300 now for what I'm into it for. It still outkicks everything in its class. I would say well past, I think, into the $400 or even $500 range. Maybe even to getting close to the $600 range. It's getting there, because again, once you get the guitar gets attention from somebody that's really good at setting up guitars, like my friend Adam at AF Precision Setups, it really does show when you have a really good guitar that can really make it a great guitar. And it's something that, if you ever go into a store and you try out a guitar and say, it's kind of cool, man. If it's got good bones to it, you might be, and you've got some kind of inkling and maybe you're drawn to it, you might want to explore that. So that's something kind of to keep that in mind. Maybe it's not set up to your specs, but that can very easily be remedied. So keep that in mind as well. And again, let me know in the comment section below any ideas you have. I really appreciate it, and maybe we'll try them out in the very near future. I want to say thanks for watching. Thanks again for the subscribers, for getting us over 200 subscribers. Really appreciate that. And I want to say thank you also for watching, and I'll see you guys real soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.